Okay, so let's now talk about how to originate a key by VIN. And what this is if you're not familiar with it, a VIN is a vehicle identification number. And all vehicles have a VIN. VIN gives you information on a specific car. VINs always stay with the car. And what I mean by that is every single part on a vehicle typically has a VIN associated with it so that you know if there is no VIN or if it's a different VIN, then that vehicle part. So let's say if it's a bumper or a trunk, if it doesn't have the same VIN as all the other VINs on the vehicle, that means that it's probably been replaced. But the VIN gives us specific information about the vehicle. And it's also um, the manufacturer's way of keeping track of the information about different cars in their database and the cars that they sell. Now, with a VIN, we're actually able to get a key code. So when cars are manufactured, they have a VIN, and each VIN is associated with a key code. And that key code allows you to cut or originate a car key for that specific vehicle. So it's sensitive information. If the wrong person gets that information, they can make a duplicate of your key without even having access to your key and be able to get into your car. And so that's why it's through automotive specialists or mechanics and locksmiths where they have special access to get OEM services. OEMs being like original brands like Acura, Honda, Audi, Bentley, BMW, etc. And so what we're going to do here is I'm going to show you how to pull to get a VIN. And then from that VIN, we're going to get a key code that is going to allow us to cut a key. Now, a key code in itself, and I'll explain this and it'll make more sense down the line, but a key code is not, if just a random person got a key code, they wouldn't be able to duplicate a key. And it's usually called it's called a blind key code, meaning that it's usually a alphanumeric character in X amount of characters long. Like Honda is about 4. So it's usually a letter plus 3 digits afterwards, and that's their blind key code. Now, key codes get transferred into direct cut codes. What that means is, or direct bidding, it basically means that it gives you the specific cut for that key. So now once you have that and you have the right machine, you can now go ahead and cut the key. So there's the difference. There's a blind key code. It's for security purposes. And then there's actual direct bidding code or cut code. And so what we're going to do is we're going to show you how to pull a VIN or how to get a VIN and then change that into a key code. And from that key code, we're going to turn it into direct bidding or direct cutting code so that we can cut this car. So let me explain this. So National Automotive Service Task Force, let me just close these out, which are unnecessary right now. National Automotive Service Task Force is an organization that basically partnered with OEMs like Acura, Audi, Bentley, and they have compiled a one-stop shop and also a almost like a gate to access all this information because it is sensitive information, but they want to put all this information to one place. And so here what we have is NASF, the website. So the primary website is nasf.org. You go here, you have to sign up for this. We signed up for it. So we have access to manufacturer's information. And so how we do this is we'll go on this website, you go to OEM subscription prices. This will give you an idea of how much it costs. So it costs us money to be able to pull key codes from the dealers. So, like Acura, it's $15 per transaction. You can get a key code, you can get an immobilizer. Immobilizer is basically the chip that's on the car. Well, it's the system that is the security feature that prevents cars from being stolen. And that's the chip on your key interacts with the immobilizer. And immobilizer basically stops the car from starting if you don't have the right chip programmed to the vehicle. So you can see Acura, Audi, Bentley, BMW, etc. The list goes on. Honda, Isuzu, Jaguar. So it's a pretty comprehensive list of all the manufacturers in the U.S. And each of these websites are particular to the company. So you have to go to Volkswagen's website to be able to get their information. You have to go to Subaru's to get their information. So every brand is different. I'm just going to use one as an example, though, to show you how this works. Every website, like I said, is a little different. What I did is I saved it up here. So you look at dealer code, and this is how you have to register for the website. You have to have a NASF code, and to be able to access this stuff too. So I'll show you that. You also have to have something called an Authy app. Authy is basically it's an app that gives off a code every like 30 seconds, and it's to prevent people from accessing your stuff. And I'll show you how that works on Acura and Honda. So here we're going to go to the Acura website. It's the same thing as Honda. So it's a Honda and Acura. Now this website is an independent repair website that's partnered with Honda and Acura to provide this type of information. Now you have to log in to be able to get access. What I'm going to do is, one thing is Honda right now is actually, they're only open from like 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. So you have to remember that Acura and Honda, they're only open from a certain time. And I think that window is 8 to 12 p.m. So you have to make sure you get all your code information before they close. Now, so I'll just show you the basic process, and it's not too difficult, but this is where we go. This is the breakdown of the pricing. If you want like their service information, you get it for 1 day, 30 days, 365 days. We're not going to do all that. We just want this, the Honda Acura key and immobilizer code right here. So we just need, let's say we need one of them. What we'll do is we'll click on order, and we have to log in. So I'm going to log in to ours. Let's see. So I logged in, and now, so we have to go ahead and let's see. I'm gonna try to find where we go ahead, and I think because they're closed, the page might look a little different. But we're gonna give it a shot anyways. Let's see. Let's go to order history. My account. Yeah, typically when they're open, you're able to have access to a place to order the keys. But since we're not, I'm going to try something real quick. Keys. Let's see if this is a little different. Okay, so I basically went back out, and then I'm now in this area. So I don't know why that is. It's a little confusing. Website's not the greatest, but so I clicked on the bottom before, I signed in, and now then I went back out, and then I went in. So now I can select what I want. So here is what we're looking for: security professionals key code and immobilizer information, USA only. This tells us it's $15 right here. So we click on this. So the VSC ID number, that is the NASF code that I'm talking about, and then the Authy code. Authy is an app. Like I said, you have to download the app and get access to it. So I'm the administrator on that, obviously, and I have to give access to whoever it is. But to get the VSC ID, we will have a spot where we have all the key, passwords, etc. But here it's in our email right now, so I'm just gonna basically pull it up. This is ours. That's our ID, and then the Authy code. So the Authy code, give me a second. I'm gonna go and grab my phone, which has the Authy code on it. I'll input it, and then I'll show you sort of what it looks like on the inside of that, or the inside of the website. Okay, so I'm just loading the app over here on my phone. You can't see that. This is for security purposes. So I'm going to input the code. And it should let me in. Validation is successful. Okay, so now I can go ahead and buy the key, information, blah, blah, blah. Continue to check out. Agree to the terms of services. I agree. Okay, payment information, blah, blah, blah. I can input the information and boom. I would now have access to now get the key. And I believe, let's see, yeah, once I do that, I would have the key access. And I'm not going to do that because I don't want to buy one right now. But let's see. So I'm going to get out of that now. And there's going to be a page where you're able to input the VIN number, and you will be able to pull the passcode that way. Now, I've already done it with another case. So, you know, this is my order number. This is if we need a purchase subscription to get a key code. But I basically put in this VIN. I got a key code, and the key code. So yeah, this is what it looks like. Basically, I would put in my ID again. Then I have to do the auth code. 94. Okay, and then you know VIN's already there, and then I just click submit. Now, remember, information is only available for 24 hours. This is a security feature. So what happened now is I now have my key code. This is my key code for this particular vehicle. Once I have this, I can now go ahead and go to the second portion, which is inputting this into the automated key cutting machine, which is the Gymkhana 994 in our case. And we'll go ahead and I'll show you now how that works. So we went from the VIN to purchasing the key code, and we now have the key code for this vehicle, and then we go over to the next step, which is now cutting the key. So I will show you that right now. Okay, now that we've gotten the key code through the VIN, now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and use that PIN code, or that, not PIN code, that key code, to be able to get the direct bidding or direct cuts so that we can cut the key. Okay, so as before, you've seen this machine already. This is the Gymkhana 994. This is an automated machine that allows you to cut edge cut, laser cut keys. And to log in, remember, administrator, there's no password, just press next. Now, this is where it can be a little tricky, okay? We can do, you don't want to do this actually. You don't want to go through vehicles and look for the key. That's when you are going to like decode or whatnot. Here where you want to go, and I'm going to zoom in. Let's see if we can get into the screen itself. Okay, so we have, okay, codes right there. Now what we're gonna do is, this is the tricky part. We have the code, but you'll notice that there's 3 numbers before it. Those are zeros, so those are just placeholders. We don't need to enter that. If you actually enter it, you won't be able to find the code itself, okay? So we're gonna input the code, and then it'll populate some options, and we'll go through that. So, okay. So now that we entered it, they give you a bunch of options, right? So you can see through that. This is where it can be a little tricky. Okay, so what we want to do is, if we haven't already, you want to use the AutoSmart book, and you want to be able to pull up the code series for the vehicle. So, you know, we've done this before. I'll just go ahead and show you again. I'm gonna zoom out just so you can see. Okay, so I'm gonna look up the, it's a Honda Civic. So we just go here. I think you can see it. Honda Civic. It was a 2006, page 48. So I'm on page 48. Now the code series is K001N718. Okay, so remember that. Now we're gonna go back over here and we're gonna zoom in on this. Okay, so what you'll notice is that, you know, the first one, you have to make sure you're looking at manufacturer. It's Honda. So, you know, you want to use that Smart Pro if you're not familiar with it, or not Smart Pro, you want to use the Auto Smart book to be able to reference this vehicle if you're not familiar with it. Now, we look at, so you manufacture, so the top two are out of the question. That's not it. What we want to grab is, you see cuts 6.6. That means that there's cuts on 6 cuts. So that 6 cuts on the top and bottom of the key, and Honda. Okay, now we look at the code series. The code series was K001N718. So you've noticed that we have quite a few options. We actually have 6 options for it. Now, how do you know which one it is? Really, the 6 options don't matter too much. What you really want to look at is that H and that K. So really, when you boil it down, it's really 2 options: H001N718 or K001N718. You know, the rest are, it's all the same. You just need to determine if it's the H or the K. Now, in our book, it said the code series was K001. The thing about K001 is that will actually give you the valet key cut. And how do I know this? And how would you know this in the future? So one thing you want to look at that's actually really helpful is in the Auto Smart book, you actually have making a key section right there. So you want to be able to reference that. That actually helps out quite a bit to know sort of like what to do. Now, read this, cutting the key. You will see this. When you are manually cutting the key, so I'm reading it right now, the master key is always a 5 depth and the valet is a 2 depth, meaning that's the cut depth. And I'll explain that. The valet function is only used in the glove box or the trunk. So basically the difference between a master key and a valet key is a valet key will not give you access to the glove box and it won't give you access to the trunk. It's a security feature. It's the key that you want to give to the valet driver so that they can only turn on the key, but they can't access your, you know, your personal belongings in your trunk or in the glove box. So how do I know that the H is the H001N718 is the master cut, and how do I know that the K001 is the valet cut? This is where I know. The master key is always a 5 depth. And the valet is a 2 depth. Now we look down here. So position 6, you might be like, what is all that? I will explain what position 6 is, but it's basically the position of the cut. So there's 6 cuts on this key. So there's basically 6 pins on the top and bottom of the key. So the first cut, so this is the tip of the key on this side. This is the end of the key, okay? This is the key head. So it's tip of the key, head. So just as an example, we're looking at it like this. So in position 1, this is cut 1 over here. You'll see every sort of spot, just like a regular key, there is an area where it pushes up the pin on the key ignition. So 6 is always pre-cut. It says right here, position 6 is always a pre-cut to number 1. So basically all these keys will always have a 1 cut on position 6. And position 5 right here, so that's the one right after position 6. So we're looking at like right here-ish. It'll be a 5 depth, okay? Valet is a 2 depth. Okay, so what does all that mean? Let me go ahead. I'm going to move over to the machine again, and this will give us some information, okay? And this is how I was able to figure this out. So you look at H001N718. I know that this is the master key because we go to next. Let me explain this, and I'll explain how I know this is the master key. So we've talked about this a little bit before, but these are depth cuts. So with Honda, this key in particular, you have 6 possible depth cuts. So position 1 is the most shallow. If you notice, it doesn't cut that much. It's the most shallow cut. Then position 6 is the deepest cut. So 1 through 6 has different depths of cut. So 1 being the most shallow, 6 being the deepest. And also, so you have depth cuts here, how deep this can be cut in. And you also have positions. So this is position 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And that was what that manual right here was referencing towards. Right here, position 6 all the way through 1, okay? So we go back, and now we look at the key, and you can see it says this is position 1 with a depth cut of 1, position 5 with a depth cut of 5. That is the key to knowing that this is a master key. So this will allow you to start the car. This will allow you to basically have access to the entire vehicle. And we know that because it says in this manual that the master key is always a 5 depth at position 5. So that should give you a pretty good idea that it is a master key. So we look at here, master key is always a depth of 5, valet is a depth of 2. So you see here, master, valet, position 5. This will give you the indication if it's valet or if it is a master key. Okay, so just so you see this, I'm gonna go back and I'm gonna pull this one up. See how that's a position 2? So we know that that is the valet key. Simple as that. It's confusing if you don't know, but that's how we can tell. Now K001, you know, I told you there was a bunch of options. So we'll look at this K001 N718 to see if it's any different from this other K001 N718. Position 2. That's the valet, same thing. Code is exactly the same. Now the H, let's look at this H. Position 5. This is the same cuts on the key itself. Okay? So let me go, we can just use this one. So now what this is, let me see actually. Let me see something real quick. Okay. So basically now that we got the code, so we took the customer's VIN, we used NASF and the corresponding OEM website. In our case, it was Acura/Honda. We bought a key code. We inputted the VIN. It gave us the key code. We took that key code, we went to our Gymkhana 994, and we inputted our code. Honda, in this particular case, and other vehicles are going to be different, but Honda's is a 4-digit alphanumeric code. So it's usually a letter first, so 1 letter, and then 3 digits afterwards. So once we did that, we went to codes, we inputted the code, we did not put the zeros in the beginning. We have our options. We decided between the H or the K, and you find that by looking at the AutoSmart book, the code series. We chose H because that is the master key cut. And you can tell because of the 5th position cut, it's a depth of 5. A valet is a depth of 2. But you can use the AutoSmart book to learn more about it in the making key section. Now that we have this, these are the direct code biddings. This is the cuts that you're going to make. These are the actual cuts on the vehicle itself. The code that we were given is called a blind code. And that's a security feature so that if someone was able to, or they were able to access the code, they still wouldn't be able to cut the key. But if someone has this, now you can directly cut the key. This machine, fortunately, automatically converts the blind code that we received into a direct bidding or direct cut code. Now that you have this machine knows exactly how to cut this key, and this is basically will be an OEM cut on this vehicle. And so that's, if you notice this key, the top and bottom are different depth cuts. Laser keys are high security keys, so they tend to make it more challenging for you to be able to access this vehicle. So that is how you basically use a VIN to get a blind key code that turns into a direct key code to allow you to cut a key or originate a key without duplicating. So you are making a key from basically scratch. You're taking the information that the dealer provides, because every single car that's manufactured has a key code attached to it. Every car is going to be different. Not entirely. There's only so many combinations, so there's going to be some overlap on cars, but the probability that you will use a key that works for somebody else's car is super, super, super low. But that, in a nutshell, is how going from a VIN to a direct bidding or direct cut code works. Once we do that, all you have to do is you press next, you follow the instructions, you put the key in, you allow the machine to cut, you press cut, it'll cut the key, you flip it 180, press cut again, and your key is mostly done. There's a little bit of prep that post-production that you have to do, meaning like you have to sand it down a little bit to smooth out the key. You have to test fit it, make a couple of adjustments. But once you do that, you're good to go. That's how you originate a key with a VIN.